Hello, great ones. Welcome to the Live and Be Great podcast. I'm your host, Latanya Sampson McDonald. I am a life coach and a registered marriage and family therapist associate. And this podcast was created to motivate, educate, and inspire all to live and be great. On today's episode, I want to talk about what it means to be an unconventional believer in my eyes. But first, y'all, I don't know what's going on this season, but I know I missed last Friday. I had a sinus infection, and I didn't realize it was a sinus infection until, I would say, that weekend on Saturday, and I had been sick for like a whole week already. Trying to take Dayquil, it wasn't working. Mucinex, the regular Mucinex wasn't working until I tried I looked at my symptoms when the whole right side of my face started to hurt. And I was like, okay, it looks like I have a sinus infection. So when I did when I went and got the first thing I did, I took 2 of my allergy medicines, my Zyrtec, and I took 2 Tylenols, and that helped. So then when I got the Mucinex Sinus Max, that helped clear it up for the most part. So yeah, that's why I wasn't here last Friday. So I'm like, let me at least come back this Friday. Even though I probably jinxed myself when I told y'all the truth. Like, consistency, unfortunately, is not my thing, but that's also a choice. That's also a choice, and I gotta be better with that. But I also, like I said, I don't have a problem with, self-care, being truthful and honest and giving myself grace. Like, when I'm not up to it, y'all won't see me. And that's that. That's the honest part about it. I'm not going to force myself to do something when I'm not up to it, because then it's not genuine and it usually doesn't come out the way I intended to come out. So I hope you guys still love me, I really do. I'm being honest with you. I hope you do. But yeah, that's why I wasn't here. So let's get into today's episode. So, Unconventional Believer. I went with that title because I want to talk about my beliefs now. It's coming up a lot in conversations with friends and family about like this spirituality versus religion type of situation. I think more and more people are, well, people been leaving like the traditional church, like seriously. And I know why. I left. I left because it just did not feel safe anymore mentally. Those spaces in the church, it just didn't. Maybe, people may say, well, you should try a different church and things of that nature. But that and combined with certain teachings that I personally believe could be damaging, right? To people's overall mental health, right? Not only spiritual health, but mental health as well. I just didn't want to be associated with that. I wanted something different. I still believe in God. I wouldn't call myself a Christian, but I do believe in God. The reason why I won't call myself a Christian is because I kind of look at Christ now as no different than me. And I don't know if I can explain that properly. I look at God as like, yes, the creator, but I also look at God as a part of me. Like, I don't look outside of myself for God. And I think I've explained before on previous episodes, but I don't look at God as this um, person that is judging me. I look at God as like a father figure that knows what I'm going to do and gives me my own choices and doesn't condemn me, for trying to figure things out. Because these are the lessons. If I mess up, these are the lessons that I need to learn in this lifetime. And it helps me. It helps better me when it comes to that. And I feel like it's pretty simple to be a good person. Like, I really, really do. You treat people with kindness. Like, when you combine that with, making sure you take care of your mental health, there's no reason to judge somebody. There's no reason to hurt somebody intentionally. And if you do hurt somebody, it's easy for you to apologize and move on. It's easy for you to set boundaries. Hey, I don't want to be hurt like this just because you're family, or just because the Bible says I should respect my elders or honor my mother and father if they're just like, it's, I also, yeah, sorry if I, if I confused you guys, but I just, I don't know. I feel as though, it's just my opinion, but I feel as though, to me, religion was supposed to be safe, I believe, but I think in this lifetime, it's used more to, I kind of feel like, mentally break people in a lot of different spaces, especially in how we look at the teachings of the Bible. Like, first and foremost, when it comes to the Bible, my thoughts are, once man got their hands on the Bible, because, we got the King James Version, and, those that have studied theology and, have degrees in such and have done like their research basically on all religions, there's a lot of things that were removed from the Bible, astrology being one of them. There were terms that were not terms, but scriptures that were switched around to fit a certain narrative, and that has to do with the humanness of people, right? And what they may feel uncomfortable with. Like, there's certain things that used to be punishable by being stoned to death, simple things, right? When you look at the Old Testament compared to the New Testament. And I feel like we should look at the Bible as sort of like a diary of somebody, or like a history book versus like law, like I'm reading a self-help or a motivational book, and I can take what applies to me out of it. That's how I look at it. Some people may get offended. Remember, I said I don't identify as a Christian. I just don't. I don't. I don't want to. I don't want to identify as a Christian, and I don't. I think part of me doesn't want to label myself as a follower of what's supposed to be the Son of God, I feel like we kind of the same, like we're in the same boat. And then, like I said, I feel like God is in us. I am God. And I feel like all of us are. And you can literally create your own heaven or your own hell right here on this earth. So that's where I stand with it. And, like, everybody has, I feel like, free will and the right to choose what feels right. And these days, when it comes to my spirituality, I like to focus on what feels right in my spirit and in my soul. Now, I don't judge anybody that, continues the Christian route or, any other religion. I feel like just about every religion is saying the same thing: be a good person, the end. Right? But it's some extra, it might be a little sauce on every part, in all the different religions, because, like I said, it doesn't necessarily take into account somebody's individual trauma that was able to write this book and spread the word and interpret it and, be that leader in the community when it comes to that specific religion, right? Because we can all interpret something that we read based off of our own understanding. And sometimes that just doesn't fit with everybody, right? Sometimes it may be completely off based off of how you were taught. Like, take the simple conversation where, I usually get into arguments about, people need to stop hitting their kids. People like to say, spare the ride, spare the ride, spare the ride, that nonsense, right? But it's like they interpret it like that. Like, okay, I need to beat you, right? And some other people may interpret it as, okay, yeah, I need to show you right from wrong, but that does not, that's all it means. It doesn't mean I need to put pain to you or put my hands on you, So it's like people can take that and twist it, like how, the slave owners would use the Bible, the curse of Ham, to basically promote slavery, say that we were supposed to be slaves, right? There's so many things that people use to really discriminate and really hurt people, right? When it comes to the Bible. Now, for those who don't listen, I love y'all. Y'all are amazing, right? You're doing it the right way, I believe. But for those who do, I feel like it's too many who do. And that, I think, has caused people to just leave the church and try to figure out who God is for themselves. And I don't feel like there's nothing wrong with that. Whether you stay for the community of the church, for the family-oriented aspect, or you leave. That's your decision, and I don't condemn people whether they stay or whether they go, right? I just don't. But as for me, I am a believer of God and a higher power, and that is it, right? And I love learning. I will admit, I do love learning about other cultures. I do love learning about how other people view that source energy. I love it. I love to just see, what works for them. As long as, like I said, as long as they're not hurting nobody, right? As long as they're not judgmental, as long as they're not condemning anybody for not believing, I'm with it. Okay. So I did mention that, religion sometimes can be used to break people down mentally. It could really mess with your mental health if it's not done the right way. Okay. And how it does that, right? I remember when I first got saved, I don't know if I mentioned this before, I was in, I want to say 8th grade, living in Georgia, and based off of the message, I felt like I was going to go to hell every day. Based off of that, because, you have some preachers that I can't really say a lot, but some people use I would say, the damnation technique. Like, you do this, you're going to hell. If you even think wrong, you're going to hell. That was literally always like what was going on. So I always felt like even if I thought about kissing a little boy or whatever that I was attracted to in my grade, that I was going to hell. Like, and I was literally depressed, crying, going to the altar. And I think I spoke to you guys about, on a previous episode about how I was judged like by people, based off of the culture. Like it made it into the church. Racism and anti-blackness made it into the church. Sexism made it into the church in a place that I was supposed to feel safe. It made it in there, that type of discrimination. It made it there. And like I said, oftentimes based on the ways and the prehistoric ways of trying to, minister to somebody, it does not take into account whoever's ministering's trauma, as well as how it may affect the people that are listening, right? It could be very, very dangerous. Like when I said I was ready to die every day, like I kind of felt like my mindset, and I'm not the only one who had this experience. Like I've talked to many, many people over the years who had this same experience, had this same feeling when they, first got saved or whatnot. And for those who don't know, being saved means you accept the Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, right? And I want to say I was in school around the time that the Columbine shooting, right, happened. And there was a shooting in I think it was Columbine High School or whatnot, but, you can Google it. But when you talk to some of the survivors, they told you that the person would ask, do you accept Lord, the Lord as your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, right? And they would have to say yes, right? And when they said yes, they was like, go meet him. So it kind of felt to me during that time, this is why I said it could be very, very dangerous, right? Based off of how you're taking things in and how you're taught, When you're a kid, like you just take whatever people tell you to do so you don't get in trouble, right? So that you look like a good person, and that's just what it is. But I interpreted it at the time, which was so dangerous, that I need to be ready to die for God, right? Instead of saying what I need to say to get out of that situation. It's like, hold on, wait a minute. So, okay, I got to be ready to die all the time. All right. So if that means I'm a good Christian, I'm ready to die every day. When I said I was literally like, okay, God, you can just take me now. Part of that was me like feeling like, okay, I've done everything right today. So, before I mess up, just go ahead and take me so I can make it into heaven. Like that's, it sounds like, a bit much, but literally, if we don't take into account like all the aspects of humanity, from physical, mental, your upbringing, your trauma, all of that stuff, spiritual, all of that, and how you're even taking in and understanding like these teachings, it could be very, very dangerous. Okay? Very, very dangerous when it comes to that. When you are just seeing everything as black and white, right or wrong, and there's no in between, right? You don't take into account that in between part, Not to say that, hey, listen, there are certain situations where, yes, you do have to pick what's right from wrong, but as far as the human experience, let me see how my flock, you see what I'm saying, or those who I'm ministering to are taking in this information? Do I have certain biases that affect the way I deliver this information? You know? And then you also have the prosperity teachers, aside from the damnation, the prosperity. And you have people like spending their rent money, putting their rent money on the altar, right? They done already gave the offering. Now you got to get the no, they did the tithe. Now there's a love offering for the pastor. So, and this person is feeling like, okay, I got to give you all of this in order for me to be blessed, or for me to get out of my financial situation, and then they getting evicted. And I don't know. I just, I, it just can be, it could just have a certain effect on certain people, that I don't want people to put so much pressure on themselves when it comes to religion, because it can sometimes cause you to really not get the best out of this life and to shut yourself off from all things that can help you, because it's different. Right? And I just want people to get more in touch with what feels good in their body, in their mind, in their spirit. Like, get back to that, and that's the work that I do. That's the work that I do now. Listen. Like I said, I was most depressed when I first got saved, and it just was, it's just difficult. And then, when you think of, like, all the things that go wrong with the world, like, I know other people, like, their child may have passed away or may have gotten cancer, or, they may have severe trauma. So then they kind of shy away from, like, what type of God would allow me to go through this, you see? And, some people, when they go for answers, it's just, well, yeah, you deserve that, and God was trying to teach you something. That's why you got raped. And I'm like, hold on. The way you saying that right now ain't gonna help this person. It just isn't. And it's like, it's okay to tell this person, hey, I'm sorry that this happened to you, right? And so we don't do no more damage. Like, maybe you should go to counseling, and maybe you should join a group that, deals with survivors. You see what I'm saying? And just, like, don't touch it sometimes, because it can really just make things worse. It really can. And I'm trying to think, like, what should a pastor say? What should a pastor say? Let me see. If a client came in and said to me, this is gonna be hard. Look, I'm really bearing it all. Really being honest with y'all. Okay, the client came to me and said, I've been raped multiple times. Why would God allow me to go through this? I would say, that's a hard one. I think I would go to the route of, I don't know if it's that God allowed you to go through that. I think the person that did it was troubled. And that wasn't your fault. And there's nothing wrong with you. I don't think that God has forsaken you, or, you're not worthy of love. I just believe that, hurt people do hurt people, and what happened to you was horrible. Um, but I want to take your story and use it to help someone else, because you're still here, and the fact that you're in my office today shows me that you still want to fight, and part of you understands that I'm valuable. So let's work on using your pain as a way to help the next person, help heal the next person that may not see a way out. Maybe that may be part of, not saying you deserved it, but maybe that might be part of, because based off of your story and your design, hey, there's people that won't listen to me because I haven't gone through that. But you give them hope because your story is like their story. And I think that is what I'll try to shift the conversation and focus that way, or say that to them, instead of the whole deserving factor, like you did something wrong to deserve this, right? Because bad things happen to people all day, every day, and it's kind of like this balance, like it's a spiritual balance between light and dark, because you wouldn't know which was which, if it didn't happen. And it's frustrating and it's painful, and you wish that, whatever happened to you didn't happen to you. But man, it's very difficult to, unfortunately, when it comes to the older teachers of religion, it's very difficult not to believe that somehow you deserve that, right? Now, when it comes to why did God take my child away and things of that nature, whew, Lord Jesus, it's it's difficult. You kind of have to, like, you can't really get around when somebody says that. You can't really get around the anger that it caused, right? I think it's okay to have a space to be angry, based off of what you were taught. If you were taught that, hey, everything is in God's plan, yeah, I'll be mad at God too, right? Until somebody showed me a different way. You get what I'm saying? And don't just give me the basic, like, I don't think nobody wants to hear anymore that it was part of God's plan. Even though, hey, you may firmly believe that and be okay with that. And that, you know what? To some people, that does bring resolve when things like that do happen. But it's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to work for everybody. So it's important that if that is your only understanding and it's hitting that person a certain way, listen, refer them to somebody else, okay? That might not be your person for the moment. And then, when it comes to the psychology of it, it's okay to have that anger, right? It's okay to have it. It's okay to be disappointed. And to sit in it. We don't want to stay in it, but sit in it. And I think sometimes we have this natural instinct to want to run away from it and automatically change that person's mind from being angry to being sad to being upset. But sometimes you got to feel it in order to see the sunshine at the end, That's just what I believe, okay, personally, when it comes to that. What else, is different about me? Because I used to be very judgmental. Very, very, very judgmental, because I was taught to judge myself that way. And that's what most Christians are taught to do, that kind of stay with those old teachings and that old rhetoric, like, homosexuality is an abomination, and Um, it's like, okay, like what do we do? What do we, like I tell y'all, what do we do with the people who born with both genders? They are hermaphrodites. It's not a myth. It's a real thing. What they supposed to do? Be alone? Hmm? So I was just like, this book. Listen. You can use it as a history book. It don't really it don't really fit as far as judgment now. It just does not. Okay? It don't. It does not align with what we deal with right now. Okay? It doesn't. So I feel like we as human beings are supposed to go further. Take what we learned from then, and just like how, okay, now you can't hit your wife with a ruler or whatever they used to have as a law back in the day, as what was considered as domestic violence and what wasn't, right? We evolve. Okay, we can evolve from the Bible and go further into whatever fits for our time now. And I'm just like, as long as you ain't hurting nobody, like, feel loved. Feel the love of God. And you love God. To me, you love God by loving yourself. That's just my beliefs, right? And any of my clients, I don't mind if they believe something different. I really don't. That's their journey, right? And I don't condemn them. I go with it, right? And I may ask questions to get them to see. I also, have to be serious about understanding if this, what they're interpreting as what their spirituality is can be harmful to them mentally, right? That's my job, or harmful to others around them. That's my job. Then I ask certain questions because I'm like, hey, if you do this, then this might happen, or this might have this certain type of reaction. Okay? If you go about it this way. You can't not, especially when working with people of color. Listen, you cannot, unfortunately, avoid certain conversations, right? When it comes to spirituality and religion. But usually in every person, in every client that I've had, whether it was a life coaching client, sorry, I could hear I'm getting stuffed up again, sorry. Can't wait till this sinus infection is gone. But whether it is a person of, I would say, a different race, creed, or whatnot, whoever I've worked with, whether economic status different, whatever, right? Religion, somewhere in there when it comes to their mental health. It always is. And how they're taking it in, because it's kind of like you get direction on how to be a good person. Everybody gets direction on how to be a good person from religion, right? And then also when it comes to laws and politics and things of that nature, whatever people use to put you in a certain category, oftentimes it goes back to religious teachings. It just does, and I don't fool with, I don't mess with, I don't use that to discriminate against people, I just don't. And it's some people who don't believe in the higher power, right? I don't judge those people either. That's their journey, You got the right. Long as you ain't hurting nobody, listen. Boom. I'm not finna tell you that you're going to hell. I'm just not. That's not my thing. And I've even changed my title, right? I've changed my title to, I probably might change it again, but I want to go as a spiritual, psychological life coach, okay? Or I think spiritual, psychological abundance life coach. Basically, with all the teachings, and yes, I do look at spiritual as astrology and human design and things of that nature. I mix all of that up. Whatever information I get that feels right, and if it feels right to a client, I'm gonna go with it, and we gonna run with it. If it don't, hey, I'm gonna back all the way up, and we gonna go whatever way you feel like is the best way, as long as it's not making your mental health worse, as long as it's not making your physical and spiritual health worse. That's how I work now, and I introduce certain things to my clients. Like, I'm not the traditional therapist. That's part of the reason why I'm not going for my other license. Like, I have my AMFT license right now, but I'm not going for my LMFT license at the time, because I just don't want the stipulations that the board puts on therapists. I just don't. Like, I am the type that will go above and beyond for my clients, because everybody is different, and I don't want to be held down by things that I feel like just don't take into account everybody, right? There is cultural incompetence everywhere, in literally every system that governs the world. And life coaching gives me that freedom to do what I need to do to help you, you know? And I love it. Like, I don't have no, like, titles. No, 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 no. That type of title, like, there's certain titles that are put onto you to give you some sort of credibility, but that's only if those people only accept that as credibility. I know I'm a beast. I know I could change your life in 5 minutes of me talking to you, right? So I don't need that. And whoever is my client, and my clients will tell you, listen, you gonna go far. You gonna go far with me, and every time, I'm not a gatekeeper, so every time I grow, they grow. Right? There is no, oh, you can't do what I do, I need to be above you, I need to be in charge all the time. No, that's not how I work. I help you with every last thing in your life. I help, and I'm your biggest cheerleader. Right? And I'm going to tell you when you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you when you're right, and I'm going to tell you when I'm wrong. Right? That's just how I am when it comes to coaching, and especially when it comes to involving this whole spiritual context to this, whether a client is up for it or they aren't. Like, I love learning what clients' views are. A lot of times I'm learning from my clients, like, it's for both of us. We both grow in the process. But, I wanted to talk about this topic because, like I said, it kept coming up, and I wanted to bring some clarity on where I stand on this topic when it comes to the spirituality versus religion, and also that I need people to understand that this does affect your mental health based off of your upbringing, right? And there's trauma associated with it. There is, not only does the trauma, your childhood trauma, like, and your perception of what happened to you shape the way you view the world and how you should move in the world, but there's another part that's connected to it, which is spirituality and religion. Okay? So it is important for me to make sure that I don't stay quiet about this topic, And some people may not want to touch it. Like, no, don't. And, don't put, when it comes to healing people, don't put, religious aspects. If you're not a pastor, if you're not this, if you're not that. But based off of what I've seen, and it must be talked about, and it has to be understood, and I have to get clarity on how you view it so that I know which way to go. When it comes to helping you be the best person that you can be here on this earth. Okay? So those who are struggling, I hope that I connected with you on some form of this conversation. Like, I really do, because I know there's people that are afraid to say, hold on, like, there's parts of this that don't align with me anymore, you know? And there's a lot of people saying this whole, like, the Jesus thing, I don't know about this person. There's people saying that, um, you know, and it's okay if you're like, okay, this part, it don't sit well with me, or how these people are acting doesn't sit well with me, or how I was brought up when it comes to religion, it doesn't sit well with me anymore. It's okay to talk about it, you know. And I'm definitely a safe space for those who have been looking for a life coach or therapist that can help them with that and won't judge them. I'm here for you, okay? Individuals, couples, families, co-parents, all ages. I got you, okay? I really do. I really, really do. But because I go above and beyond, it's like you really get another reason why I don't take insurance. Because for insurance, you have to write things a certain way. You have to diagnose somebody. You have to give them a label. It's too much, like, to determine whether you're going to pay for somebody to see me. I'm not doing that. Okay? Nope. I don't want to be part of determining what type of help somebody gets based off of that. Right? So, when it comes to that, I definitely want to make sure I have a safe space for people. Like I said, in all aspects of their life. Okay? Every single. I'm very, very resourceful. If I don't know the answer, I go find the answer. Or I know somebody who has it. Right? I'm a black woman. I can't help but be resourceful, especially being brought up, you got to do stuff by yourself on your own. Ain't nobody gonna help you type of mentality. Strong black woman by force, not by choice. Okay? This is how I use it to work for me. Right? I make sure that I'm resourceful, and I do what I need to do. I humble myself also, but I know I have that confidence that I'm good at what I do and that I belong here and I have a purpose, and I want to instill that same type of confidence in all that hear my voice and all that I work with. Okay? But we got to have real conversations, you know, whether we agree or disagree, at least let's talk about it. Right? So, I hope this was helpful. Okay? I really, really do. And until next time, I won't say I'll see you in 2 weeks because y'all, the way things be going these days, I don't know. Okay? But I will see you next time. Okay? And I promise, listen, if you follow this podcast, you gonna learn regardless of whether they come in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You gonna learn and you gonna feel something. And I want y'all to feel good. And even if you don't feel good, if you hate this whole conversation, if you cannot stand what I'm saying, that's still something. And it matters. Okay? I still hope you keep listening. You know? Reach out to me. Give me your perspectives. Right? My social media handles are on the end of the outro of this podcast. So, hey. You want to talk about it? We can, but I just want people to live the best life that they can right now, not place so much burden and so many self-limiting beliefs on themselves based off of their trauma and based off of what they've been told in the past. Pay attention to how you feel. Okay? All right, guys and girls. Until next time. The Live and Be Great podcast will be airing every other Friday. If you have truly enjoyed this podcast, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving Live and Be Great a chance. Please feel free to share, like, give a review, subscribe on whichever platform that you're listening to right now, on iTunes or Apple Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, as well as Google Play. The Live and Be Great podcast is strictly crowdfunded, so if you are interested in becoming a supporter, you can click the link in the description, or you can go to liveandbegreat.com and scroll to the bottom and donate to the Live and Be Great podcast today, so I can continue to give you good and motivational content. Thank you all for listening, and don't forget to give yourself permission to live and be great.